Hi guys, welcome back again. Just another edition of the Gsport video blogs, and today we have Stuart's tidy MX5 turbo one. So if you come on with me, I'll give you a look at the car. So this is Stuart's very clean MX5 turbo. Stuart put the car together himself. Really well put together. Nice parts used. Plenty of heat protection there on the coolant pipes and on the oil lines, and a nice feature in underneath that you may or may not see is actually a tie rod used for a turbo brace, which is the first I've seen, but yeah, it works well. I think they used to do something similar in the old Cosworth engines in the Fords. Chris's car is running just off wastegate actuator pressure, which turned out to be about 0.4 bar. It's running a Motorsport Electronics ECU, which I'll show you guys in a second as well. Nice enough setup. I think it's 650cc injectors. The turbo I think is TD04, although I stand to be corrected on that. Uprated ignition leads, all the usual bits and bobs, and just seems to be a well put together car. Good cooling there in the front with the aluminium radiator, front mount intercooler. Yeah, just everything put together fairly well. So if you come on inside the car, I'll show you a few features of the Motorsport Electronics ME221 software, and then we'll maybe get a dyno run done on the car. Alright guys, so we're in Stuart's car here at the minute, and I just wanted to show you some of the Motorsport Electronics ME221 software. There's a couple of nice features that I just thought may be worth putting on a video for you. So here we have the ME221 software, and at the minute currently the car is just idling happily there. It's already been tuned, so everything should be running fairly well. Stuart has the AEM wideband gauge in here, and he also has the AEM wideband connected into the ECU, so we have our current wideband O2 reading here. So I'll just try and focus again there, although this camera doesn't like to focus on screens up close, but you'll get the idea. It's a bit better there. So yeah, it was just one thing I wanted to show was just the difference between target AFR and lambda fuel correction, and just a couple of the nice sort of intuitive things here that you can do with the software. And at the minute the car is currently running in closed loop fueling, so it's constantly in correction. It's constantly correcting itself for fueling, using the feedback from the wideband system. And you'll see, although this moves quite fast, but you'll see it'll gradually hover in and around 14.7. We'll go a bit higher and a bit lower and a bit higher and a bit lower, and so on. What you can also see here is the fuel lambda mod, and basically what that means is it's at roughly minus 1% there, give or take. So due to conditions, be it coolant temperature, inlet air temperature, heat soak, whatever it may be, the figures in the base fuel table under these current conditions are slightly out. So that means that the wideband is reading slightly rich, and it's applying a minus trim there to get back to our target here. And what this is the AFR error as well. These are similar figures but slightly different all the same. This AFR error is a direct error from the AFR target table, and it has nothing really to do with the closed loop control. So I think that the best way I could probably show this is, if I find my cursor, here we are. If I go into lambda, and I'll disable the lambda, so don't want lambda on there, so that's the closed loop fueling turned off. And if we go back into the mapping screen, what we'll see is our fuel lambda modifier here is at 0, so there's no correction being applied from the feedback from the lambda. Now our AFR error is, it's hovering about there, the idle's sort of hovering about a little bit now. So what I'll do here, I'll just ritzen this up slightly to show you. Just try and focus. So if we add a little fuel in here, we can now see that our AFR, or sorry, our wideband current AFR is up to there around 13 and a half, in and around there. And our current AFR error, because it knows that we want to target 14.7, so it's saying that we're about 1 AFR 2 RITs, which is correct. Now this is a really handy feature to use when tuning, because you simply look at your AFR error, so long as your target table is correct, and you can then adjust your numbers in the field table up or down until your AFR error is around 0. So long as your target table, which is, let me just find target table, so that's our AFR target table, so in around here with 14.7, gradually gets richer as we come on the boost. So long as this has been set up correctly, then you simply just want to make that AFR target, or sorry, AFR error 0 as you're tuning your fuel, which is a handy feature. So that is slightly different than what the fuel lambda mod is. So if I actually go back in and turn the lambda back on, wideband simple, now we'll see, here's the fuel lambda mod as well on this screen. That will start to, I'll just bring us back to the other screen again. So you can see now that it's starting to trim out that percentage. We're going to 2.2, 2.3% here of a trim in order to get our fueling back to where it's supposed to be in the target table. I suppose the best way to describe these two, this is a live error, and this is what you would use to manually adjust your fueling, and this is the actual trim that's being applied. So it also corrects your AFR error. It's now hovering back and forth between minus and positive, which is exactly what it should be doing. So we know that we're getting a minus 5% trim there. So if you didn't realize you were in closed loop fueling and you notice this AFR error going back and forth between 0 and 0, you might think that the fueling is fine, but what you don't realize is it's actually because the wideband is actively trimming it out. So when you're tuning, you want to make sure that you're in open loop and you're not getting any correction from the wideband. But what I can do here as well, because it was only a minor change, I'll just go back to these same sites that I adjusted, and I'll trim the bit of fuel back out again, and it'll be much slower. You see the engine doesn't really like it there, it goes lean because we're much slower to react there, and you can see the trim, it's now going into a positive state. So a bit back in there again. So this is much slower to react because it has to take into account corrections and stuff like that. So it's not a good way to use for a good thing to use for tuning, because it is far too slow, whereas this gives you an immediate error, so it is much better. So we're still a little on the lean side there, so we should see that fuel lambda mod starting to decrease. Yeah, it's decreasing there, so and it's hovering about there, so it's adding a little fuel in, taking a little out. That's about right. That's pretty much where we want it then. And another, just a handy thing that you can do with this software is any parameter over in this left hand side of the screen here, for example acceleration enrichment, if you want to see what is causing the change in a fueling or an ignition state, so that if you're getting some strange numbers and you're not sure why you're getting these numbers and why the fuel changed when you didn't make any change, obviously you know there has to be some other trim applied, so you can come over here and select pretty much anything. So for example, we can have acceleration enrichment V trim. Double click that, and here we have this box here, so you can move this to where you want, and let's put it here. Acceleration enrichment should give me an addition of fuel just whenever I stab the throttle, just to compensate for quick changes in manifold pressure that the sensor can't keep up with. So if I stab the throttle, we've seen a percentage change there, and the same again. So you can sometimes find that you get strange fuel trims being applied and you're not quite sure just exactly why the fuel changed in a certain instance, so things like that are good just to sort of as a sanity check, just to find out why a fuel trim was applied or why an ignition trim was applied, and so on. And here's another one down at the bottom here, fuel IAT mod. It's adding 6.5%, which is quite high for an inlet air temperature trim, but it's all just based on added into the rest of the trims. So yeah, thanks for watching that, and hopefully we'll get a quick dyno run done and you can see the car in action. Look at what it did. So this is our dyno run here, and if we look at the figure at the very top, we can see inside the brackets is 166.5 horsepower and 161.2 foot-pounds of torque. That's at the flywheel, and this is on about 0.3, maybe 0.4 bar boost. You can also see our AFR trace here along the bottom, which is mid to low 11s at the top end, which again is exactly where we want it to be, even in such low boost, because it's a standard engine, it's running higher compression. And the other point as well is Chris is running 95 run in this car, because he finds it difficult to get 97 run where he lives. So we like it to be that little bit richer, and the timing needs to be just that little bit more retarded. Otherwise we may see a few more horsepower in there, but that's a decent result for 95 run fuel. So guys, thanks for watching again, and hopefully I'll see you next time.